California Attorney General Javier Becerra says 4 other states are going to join a lawsuit challenging President Donald Trump's emergency declaration. Now, President Trump himself acknowledged the number of lawsuits he was going to face when he made the decision to use military funds to fund construction of a border wall by executive order. But the White House maintains Trump has the legal authority to do so. For more on the story, we turn to Alan Orr, attorney with the American Immigration Lawyers Association. Thanks for joining us, Alan.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, I have to ask you, did you know this was going to happen? Could you not predict that this was going to be how President Trump ultimately got funding for his wall?
I think everyone could see it coming.
On that side, is there any way we could have prevented it? Do you think there was a way that Democrats could have worked with Republicans in the last few weeks to be able to have it so we would not have to declare?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
So then President Trump obviously is not surprised that he's being challenged in court. Do you give this administration of credit to be prepared for that type of challenge?
Absolutely not. Yeah, absolutely not. So this is sort of new ground for the Supreme Court, right? So it's not about having a national emergency. Sure, there are 32 of them ongoing about different things in different capacities. What you don't have is a national emergency that is specific to Article 1, which really readdresses the funding that Congress has given to the military. Right. So that's very new and a very extraordinary power way for the president to have. You've never seen that happen before, so that would be a first impression for the Supreme Court to sort of rule on that type of national emergency. In addition, this national emergency that he claimed is under the War Act. So he's sort of saying all of the other national emergencies that were under this 10 U.S. 6021 are about wartime stuff, Syria, stuff like that, not stuff like an issue at the border with immigration. Right,
and a lot of people point out that this has been an ongoing problem where
2 years.
Less people are now crossing the border than we've ever seen even 20, 30 years ago. Why now? Why today? So the question is for the president in these courts. In the past, Andrew Jackson, when the courts came down and tried to stop his move, he said, "Forget it. I'm the president of the United States." Do you think the president is going to actually, if the courts come down and try to stop this, like we've seen them do with others, it's going to say, you know what, forget it. Let's continue to challenge this up to the Supreme Court. I'm going to continue building my wall.
Okay. I think the president really isn't that interested in the wall.
Okay.
Right? I think this is 2 purposes. The first purpose is to get us away from the Mueller investigation and to get Russia out of our bond, because it changes the whole news cycle to be about the wall and the court appearances that are going to happen and all of the lawsuits that are going to sort of follow from that and from the different hearings that are going to happen in Congress. Right. So that moves us away from that. And second, it is his effort to fulfill the promise from his political campaign for 2020. So at the end, he'll just say, I tried it, it didn't work out, they stopped me once again, and it makes him more of a martyr. So I don't really think that he's really that interested in actually building this wall, because I believe he believes that it won't really change anything.
Well, that's the question. If there was a physical barrier or some sort of wall that was put up along, regardless of whether it's steel or whoever wants to term it whichever way, do you think it would help solve some of the issues that we are finding that both sides can agree are happening bad along the border, whether it be illegal crossings of child trafficking, whether it be the drug issues, even though most go through the ports of entry? Do you think that there could be something positive that could come with the building of this wall along the border?
Absolutely not. We have a deficit, and we don't have money to spend on that, and taking money away from our preparedness for war is not the appropriate place to address that. We have people on the left from the Cato Institute. We have people on the right from places like the American Immigration Council that both say a wall is not going to address the issue of drugs, it's not going to address the issue of immigration, it's not going to address the issue of overstays. So therefore, we're just spending money for nothing, throwing it in the air.
Well, we did see demonstrations across the United States today with those same sort of thoughts coming from the protesters from it. So the question is, what can address those issues? How can we solve these problems, the opioid crisis, the child trafficking, the drug issues that are coming across? What is a solution that we can actually agree upon?
And don't forget about immigration, because I think it's super important that building a wall does not solve the immigration crisis or the immigration concerns that we have in the United States. There'll still be 11 million people here who are not documented. There'll still be this invisible wall that the president has built up against us. So what we need is Congress to step in and do 2 things. They need to make this vote really strong to say that our democracy is strong and that the president doesn't have this power by making a veto-proof indictment of this sort of action from the president. And then they need to move on to actually passing policies that address the issues that we have at the port of entry. Smart technology will address the drug concern. Also, looking at the U.S. mail, looking where the drugs are coming from China will address that. Also, healthcare concern. People only use drugs because they have healthcare concerns. So if you just stop getting the drugs here, if there's still a desire or a user, they're just going to move it around to a different port. Also addressing the visa overstay. If we're going to talk about immigration, we need to talk about it in a comprehensive fashion and sort of sit down and finally have the conversation that we've been missing for 20 years. A wall is not going to solve immigration.
Those are all points that I think both sides could agree upon. But do you think at this stage of the game, after what we've seen these past few weeks go on, Do you think it's become too political at this point? It's too politically heated on both sides that neither side's not going to give in or work for a compromise because they don't want to give the other side, per se, a win?
I don't think that's true, because when we look at the spending that was passed, that actually was an agreement between the two parties that was sort of reached that wasn't in Trump's yard. That's why Trump took this action. So I think statesmen are returning to the Hill. Elections will make decisions, and the more that happens in the Mueller investigation to sort of pull Trump away from the center of gravity will sort of help people and Congress do what they need to do, which is really pass bills.
Well, it'll be interesting because we'll see the Mueller investigation be wrapping up according to his own timeline here in the next few weeks.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.